What's up, boobers? This is kind of a rant video about my thoughts on layering. I promise you guys waiting for the Zul'farrak video, it's almost done, but we need to talk about layering. Initially, it was accepted with skepticism, then its faults were shown and people started to hate it, but then recently some popular streamers have spoken in favor of it and now suddenly all rational discussion about it is getting thrown out the window. In this video, I'm going to lay down the facts because let's be honest, only like 1% of the classic WoW population actually likes layering. Half of you hate it but think it's necessary to solve the proposed problems by Blizzard, and the other half of you hate it and think it just causes too much damage and undermines classic gameplay. So first off, what's layering? On a typical World of Warcraft server, the game world is persistent for all players on that server. But Blizzard is predicting that masses of players will play Classic initially but not stick around. And these masses will make a single persistent world unplayable if they are all on the same server, but at the same time, if Blizzard spreads these masses out, then many servers will be left dead after a few months when the quote tourists, the people who just came to see and then leave, stop playing. Blizzard's solution to this is to layer the servers. Artificially create multiple versions of a game world. This allows more players on a single server, and then when the anticipated tourists lose interest, they can collapse it down back to its intended server count. Now all of that seems completely logical, and that's why for the most part, people accepted layering initially. At face value, it's a good idea. But out of 14,605 ways to implement layering, there is only one that would preserve the classic experience that people are seeking. Let's say that the standard server has a population cap of 3,000. Blizzard believes that on these standard servers, half of those 3,000 players will quit playing by the end of Phase 1, leaving the server with a low pop of 1,500. To deal with this correctly, Blizzard should increase the population to, let's say, about 9,000 and create 2 more layers and split up the 9,000 players into 3,000 population layers. What does this mean for resources and content? Well, let's say 2 Black Lotuses typically spawn on a server of 3,000 players per hour. So we've got 2 Black Lotuses for 3,000 players. When we increase the population to that of 3 servers, 9,000, it's okay that we also increase the resources to equal that amount of players. The Black Lotus is a bit extreme, but this carries over to all resources in Classic WoW, be it quest mobs, nodes, and devil swords. The ratio between the resources and the players remains the same, and when the population dips, it's easier to collapse the layers and nothing has gotten out of control. We have successfully averted the population crisis. Heck, dividing by an extra layer in this case won't even be too detrimental to the gameplay experience. Layer hopping will be a thing regardless, but because the number of layers and resources are proportionate to the number of players, the supply and demand evens out. It'll just make a few clever players a bit more wealthy. If this is how Blizzard intends to use layering, it's great. I fully support it and I agree it would greatly stop the issue of dead servers while having little impact on the classic WoW experience. I'll get into the issue of server hopping and the layer implementation a bit later. First I want to address the bigger issue is that this is not how Blizzard has been using layering thus far. In the recent stress tests, Blizzard announced that they were testing out different layering sizes to get a feel for how many players people wanted to see in each of their layers. This doesn't sound like something you'd do if your goal is to simply prevent dead servers. What it sounds like they are doing is trying to shard to let everyone have a nice experience just like they do on retail. It sounds in no way that they are interested in preserving the server resource ratio and the classic experience of working together to utilize limited resources like quest mobs and NPCs, and this is a huge red flag on their mentality and approach to layering. Initially, Blizzard said they had introduced sharding on the BlizzCon beta and planned to use it just in the starting zones to help avoid the overpopulation and bad launch day experiences they had in original Vanilla's launch, or Burning Crusade, or Warlords of Draenor. So the huge issue now with layering is it looks like either Blizzard is trying to solve 2 problems with one solution, or they are just flat out lying on what layering is trying to do. So Blizzard, if layering's intended purpose is to prevent dead servers, use it on a massive scale only and try to keep the ratio of players in a layer relative to how many the server's caps should be. But Blizzard, if you are just trying to protect people from the laggy launch day Zerg, just shard the 1 to 20 zones like you said you were going to do. After level 20, the world opens up and there are tons of dungeons to do, and pre-level 20 there aren't really any exploitable resources, so sharding 1 to 20 is perfectly fine. But if you layer the entire continent based on the population of the starting zones, the population of areas beyond that are going to be so disproportionate, and there's just going to be way too many resources available for everyone, and it will completely undermine all pre-raid progression in Phase 1. Quest mobs and pre-raid best in slot gear will be so easy to get by yourself, all classic communities will struggle to form. You can't solve both the launch day Zerg problem and the dead server problem with a single layer solution. You need to choose if you're solving one or the other. I was on the stress test yesterday. I was looking forward to practicing leveling with the Zerg, and it was empty. It was terrible, disappointing, and I hated it. And I haven't even started talking about its implementation yet, and layer hopping. So let's get into that. First of all, layering isn't something new to the MMORPG genre, it's just Blizzard's fancy name for something many other games already use. If you're a longtime subscriber of mine, you've probably played Black Desert Online, where they have a channel system. It's identical to Blizzard's layering system, where there are multiple versions of the game world on one server. The major difference is Black Desert Online allows you to see the channels, and you can willingly swap between them with a button click. It requires 20 seconds to swap channels, and once you swap the channels, you cannot do so again for 15 minutes. If someone invites you to a group in Black Desert Online to kill a boss, they'll say, "Hey, I'm in channel 1, come to this channel and we'll fight the boss here." In classic World of Warcraft right now, Blizzard is half-ass implementing this exact same system. Firstly, it's all hidden, it's all foggy, no one has any idea how many layers there are, and no one has any idea which layer anyone is on, their guildmates, their friends, that guy calling for help in general chat because he's being camped by Horde, etc. If someone invites you to their group in Classic WoW Beta, you have no indication on if you'll swap layers or not, and what layer you'll be swapped to. You can suddenly be swapped on top of a bunch of mobs or enemy faction players, or have your targets despawn, etc. It's all completely chaotic and random, and there's no control placed over it. You basically have to blindly put faith in Papa Blizzard to handle the layers for you. You could be in Dustwallow Marsh next to a guy being ganked by 2 rogues, and you can't help him because he's arbitrarily in another layer you don't even know exists. Even though there's only 4 people in Dustwallow Marsh on the entire server, all because the entire population of Kalimdor is divided into pieces based off the population of the Barrens. It's completely ridiculous. And don't think that this won't be abused all to hell. If you go to a heavily contested farming spot in Black Desert Online, you swap channels, and then you get a 15-minute cooldown. If you go to a heavily contested farm spot in Classic, thanks to Monkey News, we already know how easy it is to just swap to another layer, and there's no cooldown on it, so you can just keep doing it.
Whenever you've got some downtime, you're not leveling anymore. You need to log off, exit client, and make a new character. Make sure it's in a different layer. So like, this is my main, it's in layer 1. This is my ult, it's in layer 2, level 3, layer 3, 4, 5, blah blah blah, 6. All different layers. So now my account has access to all these layers, and when I want to put my main into 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, I just exit client, and then log on this, and then log off, and then log back in on my main. That's how you do it. Same with any guild member that wants to get in layer 2 or 3 or 4. I have to exit client, go on, log on 2, invite them, they'll be in 2. This is confirmed 100%. We just tested it. Fucking owned it.
So Blizzard, you need to either implement layering for its intended purpose to protect dead servers, but still preserve the classic experience with correct layer-to-player ratios, or you just implement sharding to protect players from the bad launch day experience in the 1 to 20 starter zones. And whichever you choose, you need to implement it properly so that it can't get abused all to hell. If you fail to do this, you are going to undermine the 1 to 60 progression and pre-raid phase 1 progression so much that you might as well just sell people level 60 character boosts, because from what I've seen so far, it looks like Blizzard's gone full Oprah with the layers. It sounds oddly familiar that the only content that will be safe from the layering and sharding is going to be endgame raiding. This is not retail, Blizzard. This is classic WoW. We're looking for a different type of experience here. That is my current thoughts though. I wanted to get this off my chest as I am endlessly seeing this topic come up, and I feel a lot of people are approaching the issue from odd points of view. Make sure to keep an open mind when you discuss this. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below without people getting too heated in their arguments. Remember guys, if you are watching this video, it's probably because you love classic WoW. Everyone here wants the game to succeed, so we're all on the same team. We've all just got to get through to Blizzard a good solution to the dead server and tourist problem. That's it for this video though. The Zul'farrak video should be out tomorrow. Until then, I am booping out. Boop.